The silent planet. The Great Hall of Nexus Station buzzed with activity as delegates from across the galaxy took their seats. Towering Zephyrians in their battle armor sat next to the graceful Altarians with their flowing robes. Tiny Nexari merchants scurried between the rows, making last-minute deals before the session began. Representatives from 47 different species filled the enormous chamber, each bringing their own customs, languages, and agendas to the 847th Galactic Assembly. Ambassador Veltar of the Altarian Collective stood at her designated podium, her silver skin shimmering under the station's artificial lights. She had served on the council for over a century, and in all that time, one issue had continued to frustrate her beyond measure. Her delicate hands moved across the holographic display, bringing up a file that every delegate knew by heart. "Fellow members of the Galactic Council," she began, her melodious voice carrying easily through the chamber's advanced acoustics, "we must once again address the matter of Sol 3, known to its inhabitants as Earth." A collective groan echoed through the assembly. The human question had been discussed at every major gathering for the past 200 years, and no one seemed any closer to a solution. Veltar continued reading from the file. First contact protocols were initiated 203 years ago, when the humans achieved faster-than-light communication. Standard diplomatic packets were transmitted to their homeworld. The humans acknowledged receipt of our messages, but provided no formal response. She gestured, and the display showed a timeline of attempted communications. Red marks indicated failed diplomatic overtures, stretching back decades. "We have sent formal invitations to join the Galactic Council. We have offered trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and technological assistance. Every message has been acknowledged but never answered." War Commander Krex of the Zephyrian hegemony slammed his armored fist against his seat. The sound echoed like a gunshot through the chamber. "This is intolerable. Every civilized species in the galaxy participates in council proceedings. The humans show disrespect to 2 centuries of galactic law and tradition." The massive warrior stood to his full height of nearly 3 meters. His species had dominated this sector of space for millennia through superior military might, and the concept of being ignored was personally offensive to him. "My fleet commanders report human vessels in 17 different systems. They have established colonies, mining operations, and research stations, yet when our patrol ships approach, the humans flee like cowards." Trader Prime Zix of the Nexari Consortium clicked her mandibles in agreement. Despite being barely a meter tall, her voice carried the authority of someone who controlled vast commercial networks. "The economic implications are troubling. Human colonies are completely self-sufficient. They mine their own resources, grow their own food, and manufacture their own goods. They refuse all trade overtures. This isolation disrupts established commercial patterns." Dr. Therian, the Council's chief xenobiologist, accessed his own research files. His people, the scholarly Mindari, had made first contact procedures their specialty. "Behavioral analysis suggests the humans understand our communications perfectly. Their acknowledgement signals use proper diplomatic protocols. They know we exist. They know what we want, but they choose not to respond. Perhaps they lack the intelligence to understand galactic politics," suggested Ambassador Quill of the hegemony states. "Their technology appears primitive compared to council standards. Maybe they simply cannot comprehend the complexity of multi-species governance." Veltar shook her head. "Intelligence assessments indicate otherwise. Human ships demonstrate advanced stealth capabilities. Their colonies show sophisticated terraforming techniques. They have achieved faster-than-light travel independently, without council assistance. Lack of intelligence is not the issue." The chamber fell silent as delegates considered this information. Every known species had eventually joined the Galactic Council, either voluntarily or through various forms of persuasion. The Council maintained order across thousands of star systems, regulated trade between species, and prevented the kind of devastating wars that had plagued the galaxy in earlier ages. "What do we actually know about human society?" asked Representative Morn of the Free Worlds Alliance. Dr. Therian consulted his files. Long-range observations suggest a diverse planet with multiple governments and cultures. They appear to have recently unified under some form of global administration, though the exact structure remains unclear. Population estimates indicate approximately 8 billion individuals. Military capabilities? War Commander Krex demanded. Unknown, Dr. Therian admitted. Human vessels use unfamiliar energy signatures. They avoid direct confrontation with Council patrols. We have no data on their weapon systems or fleet strength. Trade Prime Zix leaned forward in her seat. Economic intelligence suggests they possess significant manufacturing capabilities. Their colonies require no external support, implying advanced industrial capacity. However, they show no interest in acquiring Council technologies or resources. Ambassador Veltar reviewed the summary data. 200 years of attempted contact, hundreds of diplomatic messages, dozens of trade offers, all acknowledged, none answered. The humans remained the galaxy's greatest mystery. The question before us today, she announced, is whether to continue our current approach or consider alternative measures. War Commander Krex stood again. The Zephyrian hegemony proposes immediate action. A species that ignores the Council, ignores galactic law. Perhaps they need a reminder of their obligations. You suggest military intervention? Ambassador Veltar asked carefully. I suggest a diplomatic enforcement mission, Krex replied. A fleet large enough to demonstrate Council authority. If the humans wish to remain isolated, they can do so from a single star system under Council supervision. The proposal sent ripples of concern through the Assembly. Military action against a non-aggressive species violated several Council principles, but the human situation had grown increasingly frustrating. The Nexari Consortium would support limited economic sanctions, offered Trader Prime Zix, restrict their access to neutral trade routes, force them to negotiate. The Altarian Collective believes diplomacy should be exhausted before considering coercive measures, Veltar stated, though her voice carried less conviction than usual. Dr. Therian raised a scholarly objection. We lack sufficient intelligence about human capabilities. Military intervention could prove costly. War Commander Krex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. They avoid our patrol ships. They hide in remote systems. These are not the actions of a military power. The humans are afraid, and fear makes species reasonable. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued for patience, others for immediate action. The Free Worlds Alliance suggested sending a larger diplomatic mission. The hegemony states recommended economic isolation. The Zephyrians pushed for military demonstration. Finally, Ambassador Veltar called for a formal vote. The motion before us to dispatch a diplomatic enforcement fleet to the Sol system, with authority to compel human participation in Council proceedings. The voting process took nearly an hour as each delegation consulted with their home governments. When the results appeared on the main display, the motion had passed by a margin of 3 votes. War Commander Krex smiled with satisfaction. The 15th Enforcement Fleet will depart within the week. 24 heavy cruisers and supporting vessels should be sufficient to encourage human cooperation. As the Assembly adjourned, delegates filed out discussing the historic decision. Never before had the Council resorted to force against a species that had not committed acts of aggression. But the human situation was unprecedented, and unprecedented problems required unprecedented solutions. Ambassador Veltar remained in the chamber long after the others had left, staring at the human file on her display. Something about this decision troubled her, though she could not identify exactly what. The humans had shown no signs of hostility, yet they possessed capabilities that remained mysterious. They understood Council communications, but chose not to respond. They had colonized 17 worlds without Council oversight, yet showed no signs of territorial expansion. What kind of species possessed such discipline and restraint? And what would happen when that restraint was finally tested? The questions would be answered soon enough. The Watchers deep beneath the Rocky Mountains of North America, Admiral Sarah Chen walked through corridors that officially did not exist. The Cheyenne Mountain complex had been expanded far beyond its original Cold War specifications, with new levels carved from solid granite extending nearly a kilometer underground. The facility now housed the most sophisticated intelligence operation in human history. Admiral Chen stopped before a massive blast door marked only with the symbol of the Terran Defense Force. Her genetic signature and retinal scan granted access to what insiders called the Observatory, humanity's window into galactic politics. The command center beyond stretched across an enormous cavern. Hundreds of technicians monitored banks of screens, showing intercepted communications from across the galaxy. Holographic displays mapped trade routes, military movements, and political relationships between dozens of alien species. The soft hum of quantum computers processing incomprehensible amounts of data filled the air. "Admiral on deck," called Lieutenant Rodriguez as Chen entered the main floor. "As you were," Chen replied, making her way to the central command platform. At 62 years old, she had spent the last 30 years overseeing humanity's most classified project. While the galaxy believed Earth was ignoring their diplomatic overtures, the truth was far more complex. Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's lead xenopolitical analyst, approached with a tablet full of reports. Despite his civilian status, Webb had become one of the most important people on the planet. His team of linguists, anthropologists, and strategic analysts had decoded every major alien language and studied every aspect of galactic civilization. "The latest council session just concluded," Webb reported. "They voted to send an enforcement fleet to Sol system, 24 heavy cruisers under Zephyrian command." Chen nodded without surprise. "Expected timeline?" War Commander Krex announced. "Departure within the week. Transit time to Earth is approximately 43 days using standard Council hyperdrive technology." Chen studied the main tactical display, which showed real-time positions of every major military fleet in the galaxy. Red icons marked Zephyrian vessels, blue represented Altarian forces, green indicated Nixari commercial escorts. Hundreds of ships moved through space, completely unaware that their positions were being monitored from a small planet they considered primitive. "Show me the political analysis," Chen requested. The holographic display shifted to show a complex web of relationships between galactic powers. Dr. Webb highlighted different connections as he spoke. "The Galactic Council appears democratic, but it's actually controlled by three major powers. The Altarians dominate through economic dependency. They provide advanced technology to developing worlds, then use debt obligations to control political decisions. The Zephyrians maintain order through military intimidation. Any species that challenges Council authority faces their enforcement fleets. The Nixari control commerce through monopolistic trade agreements." Chen studied the data with practiced eyes. "And the smaller species?" "Client states, essentially. They get protection and access to galactic trade networks in exchange for resources and political compliance. It's a sophisticated system of control disguised as cooperation." Dr. Webb activated another display showing detailed intelligence files on major Council species. "The Altarians are logical but inflexible. They believe their economic model benefits everyone and cannot understand why Earth refuses to participate. The Zephyrians respect strength above all else. They interpret our isolation as cowardice. The Nixari see untapped markets and unused resources." Chen walked to a secondary station where Commander Julia Park was monitoring intercepted communications. Park had spent 15 years learning alien languages and now spoke 17 different galactic tongues fluently. "What's the mood in the Council chambers?" Chen asked. Park pulled up recent diplomatic traffic. "Frustration mostly. They've never encountered a species that simply ignores them. The Altarians are genuinely confused. They keep sending increasingly detailed explanations of Council benefits, as if we just don't understand what they're offering." "And the Zephyrians?" Growing impatient. "War Commander Krex has been pushing for military action for decades. This enforcement fleet represents a compromise position. They wanted to send 3 times as many ships." Chen reviewed the intelligence summaries with satisfaction. Every alien species had been cataloged and studied. Their languages had been decoded, their military capabilities assessed, their political structures analyzed. Humanity knew more about galactic civilization than most galactic citizens. The irony was not lost on her. While the Council believed Earth was too primitive or too afraid to respond to their overtures, human intelligence networks had penetrated every major government in the galaxy. Stealth satellites monitored military exercises. Quantum listening posts intercepted diplomatic communications. Advanced AI systems analyzed social patterns and predicted political developments. Dr. Webb, Chen called, bring up the strategic assessment. A new holographic display showed the real reason humanity had remained silent for 2 centuries. Dr. Webb had synthesized decades of intelligence into a comprehensive analysis of galactic power structures. The Council isn't inviting us to join an alliance, Webb explained. They want us to submit to their system. New species start as junior members with limited voting rights. They're assigned economic roles based on their natural resources and industrial capacity. Military forces are integrated into Council command structures. Chen nodded grimly. Show the Admiral the colony assignments. Webb highlighted several star systems on the galactic map. New Council members are typically restricted to 3 or 4 worlds. Population growth is managed through mandatory colonization quotas. Technological development is controlled through licensing agreements with established powers. In other words, Chen concluded, they want us to become another client state. Exactly. Earth would be assigned the role of agricultural supplier and light manufacturing center. Our population would be distributed across assigned worlds under Council supervision. Our military would serve as auxiliaries in Zephyrian fleets. Chen studied the data with growing resolve. Humanity had spent 2 centuries developing independently, while the galaxy remained unaware of their true capabilities. Earth's 17 colonies were strategically positioned to control key hyperspace routes. Human manufacturing had achieved full automation and resource independence. The Terran Defense Force had developed weapons and propulsion systems that exceeded Council specifications. They think we're afraid, Chen said quietly. They have no idea we've been preparing. Dr. Webb activated one final display showing humanity's actual military capabilities. The numbers would have shocked any Council analyst. Earth's shipyards had been producing vessels in secret for 50 years. Advanced manufacturing techniques allowed rapid construction using asteroid-based resources. Automated mining operations extracted rare materials from hundreds of uninhabited worlds. Operation Prometheus is ready for implementation, Webb reported. All fleet elements are in position. Personnel are at full readiness. Chen walked to the central command platform and activated her personal communicator. The device connected her to every major Terran Defense Force installation across 17 star systems. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Chen. You are hereby authorized to implement Operation Prometheus. Set course for Nexus Station. It's time to introduce ourselves to the galaxy. Acknowledgements flowed in from across human space. Fleet Admiral Torres confirmed departure from the Titan shipyards. Admiral Kumar reported ready status from the asteroid belt installations. Admiral Nakamura signaled all clear from the outer system defensive platforms. Chen turned to Dr. Webb with a slight smile. How long since the Council sent their first diplomatic message? 203 years, 4 months, 17 days. Well then, Chen said, I suppose we've kept them waiting long enough. The massive screens around the command center showed human fleets beginning to move. Ships that had waited in hidden bases throughout Sol system emerged from behind moons and asteroids. Vessels disguised as mining platforms revealed their true nature as military escorts. Cargo haulers released clouds of smaller craft that assembled into attack formations. For 2 centuries, humanity had listened to galactic civilization. They had learned its languages, studied its politics, and analyzed its weaknesses. Now it was time to speak. The unexpected guests. The 848th Galactic Assembly was proceeding according to standard protocols when every sensor array on Nexus Station simultaneously triggered alert conditions. Technical Officer Yilan of the Mendari Science Corps was monitoring routine traffic when her displays erupted in cascading warnings. Supervisor, she called across the sensor control room. I'm detecting massive hyperspace disturbances in sectors 7 through 12. Chief Supervisor Dorthan hurried to her station, his multiple arms moving quickly across the control interfaces. The Mindari had designed most of the station's sensor systems, and he had never seen readings like these. Scale and nature of disturbances? He demanded. Unknown, sir. The energy signatures don't match any known drive systems. And the quantity? Ilan's voice trailed off as new contacts appeared on her screen. Sir, I'm counting hundreds of vessels. In the council chambers, Ambassador Veltar was presenting routine trade reports when her personal communicator buzzed with an emergency signal. She glanced at the message and felt her blood chill. Around the vast amphitheater, other delegates were receiving similar alerts. War Commander Krex stood abruptly, his armor's communication systems feeding him real-time tactical data. Unknown fleet approaching Nexus Station, vessel count exceeding initial estimates. The chamber's main displays activated, showing external sensor feeds. Against the star field surrounding the station, shapes were materializing from hyperspace. Not the dozen ships typically seen in enforcement fleets, but hundreds upon hundreds of vessels. Trader Prime Zix's mandibles clicked in distress as her commercial scanners attempted to identify the approaching ships. These are not registered vessel types. Hull configurations unknown. Energy signatures beyond current classification systems. The station's artificial intelligence, a sophisticated Altarian system called the Nexus Mind, announced in its calm, synthetic voice. Alert condition read. Unknown fleet composition. 1,047 vessels. Repeat. 1,047 vessels of unidentified origin approaching station perimeter. Stunned silence filled the council chambers. 1,000 ships represented more military power than most species possessed in their entire fleets. The largest council enforcement action in history had involved fewer than 200 vessels. War Commander Krex was receiving continuous updates from his military analysts. Hull composition appears to be advanced metallic alloys. Drive systems generate exotic energy patterns. Weapon systems indeterminate. Ships are maintaining formation at standard diplomatic distance. Ambassador Veltar felt a cold certainty growing in her mind. Computer display vessel design parameters and compare with known species databases. The main screen showed detailed scans of the approaching fleet. The ships were sleek and angular, with flowing lines that suggested both aesthetic consideration and functional efficiency. They moved with precise coordination that indicated advanced command and control systems. No matches found in galactic databases, the Nexus Mind reported. Vessel designs do not correspond to any known shipbuilding traditions. Could they be from outside the galaxy? Asked Representative Morn of the Free Worlds Alliance. Dr. Therian was frantically consulting his xenobiological databases. Impossible. Intergalactic travel exceeds theoretical energy requirements for any known civilization. The tactical displays showed the mysterious fleet taking positions around Nexus Station. They formed a perfect sphere, with vessels spaced at mathematically precise intervals. The formation demonstrated tactical sophistication that impressed even Zephyrian military observers. Incoming transmission, announced the station's communications officer. Universal diplomatic frequency. Signal is surprisingly clear. The main display flickered, then resolved into an image that made several delegates gasp in recognition. A human female in an unfamiliar but clearly military uniform appeared on the screen. Her expression was calm and confident, with a slight smile that somehow managed to be both friendly and intimidating. Greetings, Galactic Council, the human said. Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. I believe you've been trying to reach us about our planet's extended warranty. The joke was lost on most species present, but the implications were crystal clear. This was humanity's response to 2 centuries of diplomatic overtures. War Commander Krex was the first to recover from the shock. How did you assemble this fleet without council detection? Our intelligence networks monitor all major shipbuilding activities. Admiral Chen's smile widened slightly. You monitor the shipbuilding activities you know about, Commander. Humanity has been rather busy while you've been sending us those lovely invitation letters. Ambassador Veltar found her voice. Admiral Chen, Your species has ignored Council diplomatic communications for over 200 years. This display of force seems inconsistent with peaceful intentions. On the contrary, Ambassador, we've received every message you've sent. We've read every trade proposal, every cultural exchange program, every membership application. We've studied them very carefully. The admission sent shockwaves through the assembly. The humans had been listening all along. Dr. Therion leaned forward. If you received our communications, why didn't you respond? Standard diplomatic protocols require acknowledgement and preliminary negotiations. Chen's expression became more serious. Doctor, we did acknowledge your messages, but responding would have implied acceptance of your framework. We needed time to understand exactly what you were offering. And what conclusion did you reach? Asked Trader Prime Zix. That the Galactic Council is not the Democratic Alliance you pretend to be. You're a protection racket dressed up in diplomatic language. The accusation caused an uproar in the chamber. Delegates shouted denials and demands for clarification. War Commander Krex slammed his fist against his podium hard enough to crack the reinforced material. Chen waited for the noise to subside before continuing. For 2 centuries, we've monitored your communications, studied your political structures, and analyzed your military capabilities. We know about the economic dependency systems. We know about the tributary relationships disguised as trade agreements. We know about the client-state arrangements that strip developing worlds of their independence. Ambassador Veltar felt a growing sense of dread. You've been conducting intelligence operations against Council members? We've been learning about our neighbors, Chen replied diplomatically. When someone sends you invitation letters for 200 years, it's prudent to research their organization before deciding whether to attend their meetings. The tactical displays showed human ships maintaining their positions with mechanical precision. No weapon systems were visible, but the fleet's mere presence radiated controlled menace. War Commander Krex activated his own communication channel. Admiral Chen, you command an impressive fleet, but you face the combined military might of 47 galactic civilizations. Your 1,000 ships are outnumbered by significant margins. Chen's image flickered as she consulted something off-screen. Actually, Commander, our intelligence indicates you could field approximately 800 heavy warships if you mobilized every Council member's full fleet strength. Of course, that would leave your home systems completely undefended. The casual revelation of classified military data stunned the assembly. Council fleet strengths were among the most closely guarded secrets in galactic politics. However, Chen continued, we're not here to start a war. We're here to attend a meeting. Specifically, the 848th Galactic Assembly. I believe we're fashionably late. Ambassador Veltar struggled to process the situation. You wish to participate in Council proceedings? We wish to make a presentation to the assembled delegates. We have a proposal that we believe will benefit all galactic civilizations. What kind of proposal? Asked Representative Morn. Admiral Chen's smile returned, but now it carried a hint of steel. A better way of organizing galactic civilization, one based on actual equality rather than disguised exploitation. One that allows all species to thrive without surrendering their independence to economic overlords or military hegemonies. The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed the implications. Humanity had not come to join the existing system. They had come to challenge it. War Commander Krex's tactical displays showed his own fleet positions throughout the sector. Even with immediate mobilization, it would take weeks to assemble enough ships to match the human force. You speak of equality while deploying overwhelming military superiority. We speak of change, Commander. Whether that change happens peacefully or otherwise depends on how reasonable everyone chooses to be. The message was unmistakable. After 2 centuries of silence, humanity had finally decided to introduce themselves to galactic civilization, and they had brought enough firepower to ensure the introduction would be memorable. The reckoning. The council chambers erupted in chaos as delegates struggled to comprehend the impossible situation. War Commander Krex was shouting orders to his fleet commanders, while Ambassador Veltar frantically consulted with Altarian intelligence networks. Trader Prime Zix had activated emergency protocols to protect Nexari commercial assets throughout the sector. Through it all, Admiral Chen's image remained calm and composed on the main display. She watched the alien politicians scramble, with the detached interest of someone who had predicted every possible reaction. "Order! Order in the chamber!" Ambassador Veltar called, activating the station's crowd control systems. A low harmonic tone filled the air, designed to calm agitated beings from multiple species. Gradually, the shouting subsided. "War Commander." Krex was the first to speak, his massive frame trembling with barely controlled rage. "Admiral Chen, your species has committed an act of war by approaching Council space with hostile intent." "Commander," Chen replied evenly, "we approached openly, on established trade routes, using standard diplomatic frequencies. Our ships have not targeted your facilities or threatened your personnel. By any definition of galactic law, this is a peaceful diplomatic mission. Peaceful missions do not require 1,000 warships." Chen's smile never wavered. "That depends on who you're visiting, doesn't it?" Dr. Therian was frantically reviewing xenobiological databases, searching for any precedent for human behavior. "Admiral, your species has demonstrated capabilities far beyond our previous assessments. How did you achieve such rapid technological advancement?" "Doctor, our advancement wasn't rapid. You simply weren't paying attention to the right things." A new holographic figure materialized beside Admiral Chen. Dr. Marcus Webb appeared as a civilian consultant, his academic credentials displayed for the Council's benefit. Unlike Chen's military bearing, Webb projected the calm authority of a scholar presenting research findings. "Distinguished delegates," Webb began. "Humanity has spent 2 centuries studying galactic civilization. We've learned your languages, analyzed your political structures, and assessed your technological capabilities. The results of our research are illuminating." The main display shifted to show detailed intelligence files on every major council species. Webb gestured and specific data sets appeared. Altarian economic models rely on creating dependency relationships with developing worlds. You provide advanced technology in exchange for exclusive resource extraction rights and political compliance. Client species become economically dependent on Altarian systems, making independence effectively impossible. Ambassador Veltar felt a chill of recognition. The human analysis was disturbingly accurate. Webb continued without pause. "Zephyrian military doctrine emphasizes overwhelming force projection to maintain order. Your fleet deployments are designed to discourage resistance rather than provide actual security. Client species provide auxiliary forces and strategic resources while surrendering military autonomy." War Commander Krex's tactical displays confirmed the accuracy of human intelligence. Every major Zephyrian base location, fleet strength, and deployment pattern was correctly identified. Nexari commercial networks create artificial scarcity through monopolistic trade agreements. You control distribution channels for essential technologies and resources, forcing client species to accept unfavorable terms. Economic prosperity becomes contingent on Nexari approval. Trader Prime Zix's mandibles clicked in distress as Webb displayed classified commercial data that should have been impossible for outsiders to access. "The Galactic Council presents itself as a democratic alliance," Webb concluded, "but it functions as a sophisticated control mechanism. New species are inducted as junior partners with limited rights, assigned economic roles based on galactic needs rather than their own interests, and gradually integrated into dependency relationships with established powers." The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed the comprehensive indictment of their political system. For many smaller species, hearing their situation described so clearly was a revelation. Representative Morn of the Free Worlds Alliance found the courage to speak. "Dr. Webb, your analysis suggests our entire governmental structure is fundamentally flawed. What alternative do you propose?" Chen reappeared on the display, her expression becoming more serious. "We propose the Terran Accords, a truly democratic galactic government based on genuine equality, rather than disguised exploitation." A new holographic document appeared, showing the proposed constitutional framework. The language was carefully crafted to address the specific failures Webb had identified in the current system. Equal representation for all species regardless of technological development or economic power, Chen explained. No tributary relationships, no enforced trade monopolies, no client-state arrangements. Every world maintains sovereignty over its internal affairs while participating in collective decisions that affect galactic security and commerce. War Commander Krex scoffed at the proposal. Impossible. Less developed species lack the knowledge to make informed decisions about complex galactic issues. The current system evolved because leadership requires experience and capability. The current system evolved because powerful species wanted to maintain their advantages, Chen replied. You're confusing competence with self-interest, Commander. Dr. Webb highlighted specific clauses in the proposed accords. The Terran framework includes provisions for technical assistance, educational exchanges, and gradual capability development. But these programs would be voluntary and designed to enhance independence rather than create dependency. Ambassador Veltar studied the proposal with growing concern. Admiral Chen, this would completely restructure galactic civilization. The economic disruption alone would affect billions of beings. The current structure already affects billions of beings, Chen replied. It just affects them negatively. We're proposing something better. Trader Prime Zix activated her commercial analysis systems. The economic models you suggest would eliminate established trade relationships and commercial agreements. The financial chaos would be catastrophic. For whom? Webb asked pointedly. For the Nexari corporations that monopolize interstellar commerce? Or for the client species who pay artificially inflated prices for basic necessities? The question highlighted the fundamental divide between those who benefited from the current system and those who suffered under it. Several smaller species exchanged meaningful glances as they considered the implications. War Commander Krex returned to his core concern. Even if your political theories were practical, Admiral, you lack the military strength to enforce such changes. The Council commands vastly superior numbers. Chen's expression hardened slightly. Commander, let me clarify something. This fleet represents approximately 30% of current Terran Defense Force capabilities. Our shipyards have been operating at full capacity for 50 years. Our technology exceeds Council specifications in every major category. Your tactical computers should be telling you exactly how this engagement would conclude. She gestured, and technical specifications appeared on the display. The data showed human vessel capabilities that made even Zephyrian dreadnoughts look obsolete. But more importantly, Chen continued, we're not here to conquer anyone. We're here to offer a choice. Adopt the Terran Accords voluntarily, or watch galactic civilization fragment as more species realize they don't need the Council's protection or permission to thrive. The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. Humanity had broken the fundamental assumption that species needed the Council's umbrella to survive in galactic politics. If they could achieve independence and prosperity alone, others might follow their example. Ambassador Veltar understood the strategic implications immediately. You're not just challenging our governmental structure, you're challenging the entire concept of mandatory galactic unity. We're challenging the concept of forced unity, Chen corrected. Voluntary cooperation benefits everyone. Coercive systems benefit only those in control. War Commander Krex was receiving continuous tactical updates from his fleet commanders. Every analysis confirmed the same conclusion. Human military capabilities exceeded Council estimates by orders of magnitude. A direct confrontation would be catastrophic. What guarantee do we have that humanity won't become the new galactic hegemon? He asked. Chen's smile returned, but now it carried genuine warmth. The same guarantee you gave to every species you inducted into the Council, Commander. Our word that we'll abide by the principles we're proposing. And if we refuse your proposal, then you refuse it. But you'll do so, knowing that the galaxy has seen an alternative to your system. And you'll do so knowing that humanity will continue to exist and prosper outside your control. The message was clear. The age of Council dominance was ending, whether they accepted it gracefully or not. Dr. Therian raised one final question. Admiral Chen, why reveal yourselves now? You could have remained hidden indefinitely. Chen considered the question carefully. Because isolation is ultimately a dead end, Doctor. Humanity wants to be part of galactic civilization. We just want it to be a civilization worth joining. The new paradigm. The council chambers remained silent for long minutes as delegates processed the magnitude of humanity's proposal. The Terran Accords represented more than political reform. They challenged every assumption about how galactic civilization should function. Ambassador Veltar was the first to break the silence. Admiral Chen, you're asking us to dismantle a system that has maintained galactic peace for millennia. The current structure may be imperfect, but it has prevented the devastating wars that plagued earlier eras. Chen nodded respectfully. Ambassador, we're not proposing to eliminate galactic cooperation. We're proposing to make it genuinely voluntary. Peace maintained through coercion is not true peace. It's suppressed conflict, waiting for the right moment to explode. Dr. Webb activated additional displays showing historical data. Our analysis indicates that the current system has prevented large-scale wars by ensuring no single species could challenge council authority. But it has also created numerous smaller conflicts as suppressed populations rebel against their client status. The data was damning. Dozens of police actions and stabilization missions over the past century, all designed to maintain the existing power structure. Representative Morn of the Free Worlds Alliance leaned forward in his seat. Dr. Webb, your proposal assumes that species will cooperate voluntarily when their survival interests conflict. History suggests otherwise. History under the current system, Webb replied. When species are treated as equals rather than subordinates, they tend to behave more cooperatively. When they know they can withdraw from agreements that no longer serve them, they're more likely to honor the agreements they make. Trader Prime Zix had been running economic projections throughout the discussion. The commercial implications are staggering. Eliminating established trade monopolies would disrupt supply chains across the galaxy. Billions of beings depend on current economic arrangements. Chen addressed the Nexari directly. Prime Zix, your analysis assumes that current trade relationships are necessary rather than simply profitable for Nexari corporations. Independent economic modeling suggests that free market competition would reduce costs for most species while maintaining adequate profit margins for efficient producers. And inefficient producers? Zix challenged. Would be replaced by more efficient ones, Chen replied calmly. The same natural selection that drives biological evolution can improve economic systems if artificial barriers to competition are removed. War Commander Krex had been silent while reviewing tactical assessments from his military staff. The conclusions were uniformly sobering. Admiral Chen, your fleet positions suggest you've studied our defensive capabilities extensively. This level of intelligence penetration represents a significant security breach. Commander, we've studied publicly available information and drawn logical conclusions. Council military doctrine is based on principles of overwhelming force projection. Your base locations and fleet deployments follow predictable patterns designed to maximize psychological impact on potential opponents. Krex's tactical displays confirmed the accuracy of human assessments. Every major strategic position had been correctly identified through what appeared to be pure analytical deduction. You've turned our own doctrine against us, he admitted, grudgingly. We've learned from your successes and failures, Chen corrected. The Zephyrian military model works well for maintaining order among compliant populations. It's less effective against opponents who understand your methods and refuse to be intimidated. Dr. Therian had been consulting with xenobiological colleagues throughout the galaxy. Admiral, we're receiving reports of human activities in sectors previously thought uninhabited. How extensive is your actual territorial presence? Webb brought up a galactic map showing human colony locations. The distribution was far more extensive than Council intelligence had indicated. Humanity currently maintains active settlements in 43 star systems with resource extraction operations in an additional 78 systems. The revelation stunned the Assembly. Human expansion had proceeded completely under Council radar, establishing a significant territorial presence without triggering diplomatic protocols. These colonies operate under unified Earth government? Asked Ambassador Veltar. Under the Terran Colonial Charter, Chen confirmed, each world maintains local autonomy while participating in collective decisions through democratic representation. It's essentially a smaller-scale version of what we're proposing for galactic governance. Representative Vask of the Outer Rim Territories found the courage to speak. His species had been a council client for over 2 centuries. Admiral Chen, what guarantees would independent species have under your proposed system? How do we know humanity won't simply replace the current powers as the new dominant force? Chen's expression became more serious. Representative Vask, we can't provide absolute guarantees any more than the Council could when they promised to protect client species. What we can offer is a system designed to prevent any single power from dominating others. Dr. Webb highlighted specific constitutional provisions. The Terran Accords include mechanisms for collective action against aggressive powers, including humanity. No species would be dependent on any other for essential resources or security. Independent capability development is encouraged rather than restricted. War Commander Krex reviewed the military implications carefully. You're proposing to arm every species in the galaxy with advanced military capabilities. That seems likely to increase conflict rather than reduce it. Weapons in the hands of equals tend to preserve peace, Chen replied. Weapons in the hands of overlords tend to preserve dominance. The current system concentrates military power among a few species while keeping others defenseless. Our proposal distributes defensive capabilities more evenly. The debate continued for hours as delegates grappled with concepts that challenged their fundamental assumptions about galactic governance. Smaller species began to see opportunities for genuine independence. Larger powers worried about losing their privileged positions. Ambassador Veltar called for a brief recess to allow delegations to consult with their home governments. As alien politicians filed out in confused clusters, she remained in the chamber with her senior advisors. Analysis? She asked her intelligence chief. The humans are not bluffing about their capabilities, came the immediate response. Their fleet positions demonstrate tactical sophistication that exceeds our current models. Their intelligence penetration is comprehensive and sophisticated. Most critically, their economic independence appears genuine. They don't need anything we currently provide. Veltar considered the implications. Political assessment? If they wanted to conquer the galaxy, they probably could. The fact that they're proposing voluntary cooperation suggests they're sincere about their stated goals. In another section of the station, War Commander Krex was receiving similar briefings from his military staff. Can we defeat them? He asked, bluntly. Unknown, sir. Their technology appears superior to our current systems. More importantly, their strategic positioning suggests they've been preparing for this confrontation for decades. Even if we could win a direct engagement, the cost would be catastrophic. And if we accept their proposal, the Zephyrian hegemony would lose its position as the dominant military power. However, under their proposed system, we would retain significant influence based on our actual capabilities rather than our historical position. When the session resumed, the mood in the chamber had shifted noticeably. Delegates who had initially reacted with outrage were now asking practical questions about implementation timelines and transition procedures. War Commander Krex stood slowly, his massive frame commanding attention throughout the chamber. For several moments he stood in silence, visibly struggling with a decision that would define his legacy. Admiral Chen, he said finally, the Zephyrian hegemony has maintained galactic order for 800 years. We have fought countless battles to preserve peace among the stars. We have sacrificed thousands of warriors to protect species that could not protect themselves. Chen waited respectfully for him to continue. Your proposal would end that role. The hegemony would become merely one voice among many, our fleet serving collective decisions rather than our own strategic judgment. Yes, Commander, that's exactly what we're proposing. Krex reached for his ceremonial war blade, a weapon that had belonged to his family for 20 generations. Every delegate in the chamber tensed, unsure whether he was about to issue a challenge or make a symbolic gesture. Slowly, deliberately, he removed the blade from its sheath and placed it on the podium before him. In Zephyrian culture, the gesture represented acknowledgement of a superior opponent and willingness to negotiate rather than fight. The humans have proven themselves worthy of respect, he announced. They studied us for 2 centuries while we dismissed them as primitives. They achieved military superiority while we remained ignorant of their capabilities. They offer cooperation while demonstrating the power to impose their will. He straightened to his full height. The Zephyrian hegemony will consider the Terran Accords. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.